Hey y'all, it's Miss A. Today our topic is multiplying fractions. It's extremely simple, pretty straightforward. Hopefully y'all find it as easy as I believe it to be. Before we get started on this though, I do want to talk about one thing, and this is how to determine if your value or your product is going to increase or decrease. So if the fraction you are multiplying by is less than 1, meaning it's a proper fraction, then your product will decrease. And that makes sense. If I'm multiplying by, let's say, 1/2 is less than 1. When you multiply by 1/2, you're taking away half of it. So it does make sense that then my answer would decrease in value. All right. The next one says that if a fraction you're multiplying by is greater than 1, meaning it's an improper fraction or possibly a mixed number, then your product will increase. So again, hopefully that makes sense. If we're multiplying by a value that's greater than 1, whether that be 1/2 or 2 1/3, whatever it may be, anything greater than 1 is going to get me a product, an answer that is increasing in value. Okay, it gets bigger. So what that looks like is right here, where we have this fraction, 3/8, and we're multiplying it by 7/3. We're going to look at that second fraction, and because that second fraction is improper, it's bigger than 1, greater than 1, then our value is going to increase in the end. So if after I multiply, I get 21 over 24, and I know that 21 over 24 is in fact greater than 3/8, because 3/8 is less than half. 21 over 24 is greater than 1/2. So it did increase. All right, and right here we have 5/6 times 1/4. Again, we're looking at that second fraction. Because this fraction is less than 1, our product is going to decrease. It's going to decrease in value. So if I multiply straight across, which we're going to learn in a minute, I get 5 over 24. Now 5/6 was almost the whole. 5 out of 6 is almost the whole, so that's almost 1 whole. But 5 over 24 is way less than half, so it did hold true that our product decreased from 5/6. Okay? So if the number you're multiplying by is greater than 1, it's going to increase. If it's less than 1, it's going to decrease. This will help us just kind of see if our answer that we got is reasonable or not. All right, so let's get into it. Multiplying fractions, like I said, very simple. Don't overthink it. Step number 1, we're going to multiply the numerators. Step number 2 is to multiply the denominators. Step number 3 is to simplify if you need to. 9 times out of 10, you'll probably have to simplify, at least in 6th grade. So here's an example for you. You have 1/4 times 2/3. We're going to multiply straight across. So 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 3 is 12. So now there's our fraction, 2/12, but that's not in the simplest form. So we have to reduce it by a common factor, which in this case is 2. 2 divided by 2 will get me 1, and 12 divided by 2 will get me 6. So my simplified fraction is 1/6. So the product of 1/4 times 2/3 is 1/6. Hopefully they wouldn't give this to you as an answer choice to confuse you, but it's very likely that they could, especially if they throw in that phrase in simplest form. Make sure you simplify, guys. Always make sure you simplify. All right, so here's our first example. We have 1/3 times 3/4. Again, like I mentioned, very simple. Don't overthink it. We're going to multiply our numerators. 1 times 3 will get me 3. Multiply our denominators. 3 times 4 will get me 12. And then step number 3 is to simplify if needed. This fraction can be simplified. It can actually be simplified by a factor of 3, but I'm going to show you how to use your multiplication chart to help you simplify. So we're going to find 3/12 on this multiplication chart, and it has to be in the same column, meaning I can't pick 3 and then 12 here because they're not on the same column together. All right, but I can use 3 and 12 right here. They're in the same column. They're spaced out, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with them being spaced out as long as they're on top of each other. So to reduce 3/12, 3 is going to reduce to 1, and 12 is going to reduce to 4. So 1 over 4. So basically what I just did here was I divided by that common factor of 3. Some of y'all can see that, some of y'all cannot. That's where the multiplication chart's helpful. 3 divided by 3 will get me 1. 12 divided by 3 will get me 4. So my simplified product is 1/4. And now let's see if that makes sense. The number we multiplied by was 3/4. So 3/4 is less than 1. So less than 1 means it's going to decrease in product. So 1/3 is in fact bigger than 1/4. Our product did decrease from where we started. 1/4 is smaller than 1/3. So I know our answer is reasonable. All right, number 2, we've got 5/6 times 2/3. 5/6 times 2/3. Now this one I'm going to do a little bit different, okay? Well, first of all, I'll show you the traditional way. We're going to multiply straight across. Our numerators, 5 times 2 will get me 10. Multiply by the denominator, 6 times 3 will get me 18. And then we're going to simplify by using our chart this time. Some of you are probably telling me, oh, they're both even, so I know you can divide it by 2, and that's correct, you can. But some people would struggle seeing that, so I'm going to show you how to do it on your multiplication chart again. So we're looking for 10 over 18. All right, so we've got 10 and 18 right here. Again, they're spaced out, that's okay. If you see it appear more than one time, make sure you pick the ones that are closest together. If they are spaced out, you might have to simplify them multiple times. But in this case, we only have it in one spot. So 10 over 18 is right here. So 10 reduces down to 5, and 18 reduces to 9. 5 over 9. Again, what we just did was divide by that common factor of 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So our simplified product is 5/9. Now, I did tell you I was going to solve this one a different way. So if you look at these two fractions, 5/6 and 2/3, neither one of them can be reduced before we multiply. Our product could be simplified, but not the two individual fractions at the beginning. So what we could do is actually what's known as cross-simplifying. I guess that's the word for it. Where you pick any numerator and any denominator that have a common factor. So I know 5 and 3 don't have anything in common other than 1, but I can't use 1. But 6 and 2 do. They're both even, so they have a common factor of 2. So if I were to cross them off and divide both of them by that common factor, kind of like what we're doing here, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1. If you cross simplify, it keeps you from simplifying at the end. 5 times 1 is 5. 3 times 3 is 9. Gets us the same exact answer, just a little bit different way of doing it. Some kids will really get this pretty easily. Some of y'all might struggle, that's okay. But it is a good tool to use, especially if you can reduce prior to having to simplify at the very end. All right, let's do another example, number 3. Now this one's a little bit different. You notice that we have a whole number and then we have a mixed number here. So this one's a little bit tricky. Well, not tricky, but a little bit special circumstance. So first thing we have to do is convert this fraction, or this 2, the whole number, into a fraction. To do that, you simply put it over the number 1. And we're going to multiply it by this mixed number. Now this mixed number needs to be made into an improper fraction. So to do that, I've heard it called a Texas popcorn, where you multiply at the bottom and you add on top. Get it? Texas, TX. Looks like a piece of popcorn. I don't know. Some people see. Anyway, so we're going to multiply the denominator and the whole number. 2 times 2 will get me 4, and then add the numerator. 4 plus 1 is 5. The denominator stays 2. And now we can multiply straight across. 2 times 5 will get me 10. Multiply the bottom, the denominators. 1 times 2 will get me 2. This is an improper fraction, so we don't want to leave it as an improper. 10 divided by 2 will actually get me 5. All right, and we didn't talk about the little rule here. This fraction right here is proper, meaning it is less than 1, so our answer should have decreased. 5/6 is almost a whole. 5/9 is not quite. It's a little bit more than half, so it is less in value, so it did decrease, so that one was accurate. Right here, we multiplied by a mixed number, so that means our product should have increased from 2. So our answer had to be greater than 2, which it was. 5 is greater than 2. So that increase and decrease does hold true. All right, and then our last example is a word problem. It says Marisol is baking cookies. The recipe requires 1/3 cup of sugar, but she only wants to make 3/4 of the entire recipe. We want to know how many cups of sugar should Marisol use to make the cookies. How many cups of sugar should she use to make the cookies in this 3/4 of the recipe? So all we're going to do is we're going to take that, because we're finding, it says of the recipe, we are going to multiply. So we're going to do 1/3 times 3/4. We're taking the sugar that originally was needed, we're multiplying about 3/4 because we're just getting 3/4 of the recipe. So multiply your numerators. 1 times 3 is 3. And then 3 times 4. 3 times 4 will get you 12. And because Miss A is human and she makes mistakes, you will notice that this fraction looks extremely familiar because it's the same exact problem as A, but it's okay, whatever. It is the same problem from number 1. So now all we have to do is, it's already simplified for us. Make sure you put it in simplest form. So the fraction is 1/4. Oopsie, didn't realize I did that. Anyway, multiplying fractions, guys, it's really simple. Just multiply across. Multiply your numerators, multiply your denominators, and make sure you simplify. If you need extra help on learning how to simplify using this chart, please watch my YouTube video over multiplying or reducing fractions, simplifying fractions, or ask me personally. Join me on Zoom, send me an email, whatever y'all have to do. Y'all have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all later, guys. Bye.